Good afternoon. My name is Joel. I'm going to be talking about college athletes and their rights and privileges afforded to them by the NCAA. So there are 5 points in terms of the exploitation that they suffer from or any kind of inequality. So the first one we have is economic exploitation. College athletes, they have an inability to bargain for uh, their pay. Professional athletes are able to articulate how much they want to be paid in accordance to their talent. For example, in professional sports, the coaches are going to be paid about 4 to 6 million, while their star athletes are going to be paid about 41 million. In college sports, the coaches do still make about 4 to 6 million, while the college athletes are simply promised scholarships and grant benefits, much of which we will see later on are not received. So athlete health and safety is another issue. Much of college has been seen through recently is sexual assault. Three different coaches have been convicted of sexual assault in the past 3 years. There's also been 27 deaths from the year 2000 to 2016, not related to a actual collegiate game, but from practices and other activities. And also there's racism as well as fat shaming and other factors which are employed by the coaches, often credited to motivate the players, but are more than likely harmful and cause much of the students to either drop out and for some to even commit suicide. There's also meaningful education. The college athletes are promised a scholarship and grants in order for them to get a degree and further a career after their athletic career. However, almost all athletic programs have a lower graduation rate amongst their athletes than their normal students. Also, coaches usually prevent a lot of athletes from a wide variety of majors due to the amount of time and effort that they need to put into it, which would take away from their athletic abilities. So a lot of students, athletes that want to major in the medical field or in some kind of STEM uh, degree are often prevented and shackled from doing so because they are to report to their meetings and practices, so on and so forth. They also are forced to be having major spells removed from their academics. Much of the basketball schedule has to have about like a month of not going to class, and their students are forced to make up any missed assignments in a very short period of time, as well as not receiving a chance to go to summer programs because of practices and voluntary uh, workouts. There's also gender inequality. Much of the men receive about four and a half grand in proportion per men on a basketball team in terms of the equipment they receive, while women all only receive about 2.5 grand. There are also women's sports are being undersold for approximately $78 million every year for their broadcasting rights, while men's sports are currently plateauing in excitement. Women's sports are growing and are reaching close to $1 billion in total revenue. Finally, the last problem in student athletes is going to be what's called plantation dynamics. This is where most of the athletes in top five schools, the Power Five schools, are black athletes who generate a proportionally more revenue than any other race. However, most of this revenue is pumped back into the white staff and faculty as well as the students, while the black students are not receiving much to or none of the revenue that they allocate. This also correlates to black students not graduating at the same rate. About 60% of black students are able to graduate while their white counterparts are able to graduate at 76%, both in the athletic and in the regular student standpoints. Now, there are several solutions that can be looked upon for each of these problems, which will be given to in respect to how the problems were presented. First, we have a student union to counteract the economic exploitation. If students are able to stick together and bargain and advocate for proportional pay, uh, this would allow for all students to potentially combat college's ability to rack in most of the profits and take away much of the profits from going to these students and and neglecting them of their NIL privileges. For the healthcare issue, insurance as well as practices in place under regulation are going to be what's going to negate that problem. Insurance must be placed at least, according to a recent proposal for College Bill of Rights, 5 years after a college student eligibility, in order for them to recoup any of medical expenses, as well as being able to pursue a professional career and back out and come back to the college career if they were to need to do so. Next up, for lack of being able to be educated, lifetime scholarships are a great idea. Students are able to complete their athletic career, come back, and pursue their scholarship. And this is also exceptional for those students who choose to transfer to a different school for athletic reasons, and they're able to continue their education and not be penalized because they have to spend most of their time in their respective sport. For women's inequality, we have that women's sports receive the business interest that the men receive. It took several centuries of investment to bring up men's sports to where they are now. So if women were able to get that uh, and consistently get that, the growth will eventually triumph over the investment, and there will be a profit, and inequality would not be a problem that we need to face. Finally, the most dramatic approach that we have is to abolish the NCAA altogether. Much of the problems that are not bugs in the NCAA, but they are features of the NCAA. So it will be beneficial for us to look into a different governing body and abolish the NCAA as a whole. Even the current president advised that the NCAA must take a smaller role, but abolishment altogether might make the ability for uh, better and altogether just better rights and better privileges given to these athletes, and equality and inequality to be combated in a better way. And that's the end of my presentation. I choose to side on probably not abolishing the NCAA, but providing more rights in terms of like healthcare and lifetime scholarships, as well as women receiving more business interest. And all of this could be benefiting in a positive light for many of our athletes and can lead to a better future and not exploitation of these um, involved personnel in our own colleges. Thank you.